Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC Columbus. I'm Paul Shaughnessy, joined on the line by Cody Saftic, coming to you on a Monday because Cody's going on vacation. Apparently, he's made a lot of money. Not last week. Last week, UFC London, great card in terms of entertainment factor, bad for my bankroll. These things happen when, I had a 28-1 for Volkov round 4, 33-1 for him round 5. It's like I didn't expect when I placed those bets to win those bets. The fight obviously is finished in the first round. You throw those ones out. I'm going to fade Paddy Pimblett at any time you give me a 5-1. I don't really care. I'm going to take that as that's an auto bet for me. The Cody Durden one was just stupid. Corey McKenna, why aren't you wrestling? Why aren't you wrestling? So that was the disaster. I don't get to do the recap every single week like Cody, so this is just me explaining myself. And then Nathaniel Wood dropped off, but that parlay would have been busted by Corey McKenna. And what else? Gunnar Nelson by sub, -110. Happy I didn't put more on it because I really like that spot. The entire time, just mad tilts, just going, it's there, go get it. You can sub this guy. Miguel Baeza subbed this guy. Just didn't. I mean, he won the fight. He won it cleanly. That's what Gunnar does. He's so smart. It's just like he didn't need the sub. He knew he was winning the fight. It is what it is. A reverse sweep for the kid. We're coming to you early. There's not even really totals out this week, but we're going to do our damnedest to try to give you some good picks this week. What's up, Cody?
Yeah, man, I just barely survived myself last week. Like, I'm always have that big investment. That top ticket needs to hit. If that hits, it's not going to be a bloodbath of a night. We got to get it through. But top ticket barely hits. Taporia hits the canvas off a head kick. The rest of the picks, not so good. 6 and 6 doesn't sound so bad. But it was like the 6 I got wrong, I really got wrong. And the 6 that we got right, a bunch of them are big, massive favorites. So, yeah, I realized probably going back a couple of weeks now. It's like, man, we're on a hot streak. Things are going good, but Lady Luck's going to turn her evil face on us here pretty soon. It's all about surviving, but you got to enjoy the money, enjoy the time, enjoy the picks. You don't want it to be such a total grind that it's just day in and day out. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to Cuba, man. I've been in Cuba 3 or 4 times now. Absolutely love it. People always say the food's no good, but outside of that, beaches are beautiful. People are awesome. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to take a week off, go out. But, we are contractually obligated with DraftKings Sportsbook to release the show. So we still got to do it. Just got to do it on a Monday. And if you want to say thanks to DraftKings Sportsbook. Hit like, hit subscribe, make an account if you don't already have one. But the end result is we're coming to you on Monday. Would I like to have the extra couple days to tape study this thing to the fullest and give you bona fide picks on the Wednesday like we normally do? Sure. Fortunately, flight leaves at 6:50 in the morning, so let's get at it, big guy.
Yeah, UFC London hit me like a ton of bricks, and I actually jumped right into tape immediately afterwards. So I'm way more ahead for a Monday on tape than I usually am. But yeah, it's Monday. Usually we have like an extra 48 hours to break these things down. So haven't taped every single fight. We're going to go through them. And frankly, the main event seems very, very straightforward. We have Curtis Blaydes taking on Chris Daukaus. Curtis Blaydes is a -350 favorite. Daukaus is +270. I'll tell you one thing, Cody. Stats Bros going to be in shambles on this one because they're going to have to watch some tape because Chris Daukaus has never been taken down in his UFC career. That being said, he hasn't taken on a wrestler the size and the power of Curtis Blaydes. This fight really goes one of two ways, and I'm leaning towards Blaydes absolutely mauling him. Minding his P's and Q's entering the pocket. Could be a little bit dicey early for him because the chin has never been great. It's been compromised multiple times. Once he grabs a hold of Chris Daukaus, so I expect him to peel him to the ground. And then it should just be, round after round, depending on how long this fight goes. It should be rinse and repeat. I got Curtis Blaydes to win. I think Curtis Blaydes wins this fight probably 8 out of 10 times. Probably a decent parlay piece as it stands at this point in the week. Obviously, we're early on a Monday. I see across the industry right now, it's moving to -400. It'll be -500 by the time we get to Saturday, which is probably the resting place where it is pretty where it should be, I think. So Blaydes, I think, is an early week parlay piece. I expect him to smash, don't get knocked out, and the rest should take care of itself. Curtis Blaydes for me. I'm assuming it's Curtis Blaydes for you.
Yeah, I think the book's starting to sharpen up a little bit too. Is you're seeing these lines are completely getting smoked. It wasn't anything to move back in the day, 20, 30, 40 points, but now it's moving like 300 points because a lot of people are now on consensus favorites, and the bookie's been getting smashed by these favorites parlayed together recently. So look at the card last week, right? When we did the show, Paddy Pimblett was a minus 450, right? He goes off as a minus 750, right? So the line moves 300 points in 3 days. Look at the Gunnar Nelson line. We did the show, he was minus 325. He goes off as minus 800. Look how much steamed it got. And same thing with Ilir Topuria. We did the show, I think he's a minus 400, minus 450 when we did the show on the Wednesday, and he goes off as a minus 750 favorite. So
Grundy.
You're going to see a lot of that. It happens in Bellator. You'll notice it in Bellator all the time where they'll release their lines, and then within 2-3 days, guys that were minus 400 or minus 900 now, they start to fall into trap lines. Do I want a heavyweight at minus 400, minus 500, a guy in Curtis Blaydes that's not known to take a great punch, taking on a guy in Kyle Daukaus that has pretty decent technical boxing, fast hands, good power, mobile for the division? I don't know if I want to pay that much for it, but yeah, he's the rightful play. Last week, what I was getting to, I don't know why the hell I go with Volkov, but what I was getting at was cardio's king. Cardio wins these fights. They're 5-round fights. If they are going to go a little bit later, you want the guy with the better gas tank. Curtis Blaydes excels in these 5-round fights at heavyweight because there's not a whole lot of heavyweights that can wrestle like him, can have good deep cardio like him, 5-round go Colorado cardio, and push that kind of pace for 25 minutes. So even though he's not the greatest striker, he doesn't have massive power, he's not some massive submission threat, it's like he can just get the fight to where he wants it and grind you. I mean, he took down Alexander Volkov 14, 15 times over the course of 25 minutes. It's all good stuff. And when I see what Daukaus is, if you go look back on his regional show, right, he fights Azuna Anawayu, which is 2019, right? Starts off the fight pretty good. Second round, he's taking on a near 40-year-old fighter, and he tires. Daukaus is gassed. Once he gasses, he gets touched up. Once he gets touched up, he falls over. He doesn't look like he's going to be that legitimate of a fighter, and within 2 fights, he's in the UFC. Bum rushes Danny Holmes, beats him, now he's in the UFC. And it looks awesome against Parker Porter, gets a quick finish. Looks awesome against Rodrigo Nascimento, quick finish. Awesome against Aleksei Oleinik, quick finish. Pretty good against Shamil Abdurakhimov, another quick finish. And for whatever reason in the Derek Lewis, not for whatever reason, we all know the exact reason. When he fought Derek Lewis, he was just like a deer in the headlights. He was like, I don't want to engage this guy. He was more than willing to engage the other guys. But Lewis, he literally just sat there and watched him and didn't know what to do. Lewis ends up getting off first. When Lewis gets off first, people get knocked out. And unfortunately, he gets knocked out. Would I say he's got a bad chin? Maybe not. But I don't think he's got a great chin. I've not seen him get outside of like midway through the second round in a long time. To me, it seems like he could have a cardio issue. And yeah, I think if Curtis Blaydes just goes out there and rinse and repeat with takedowns, smashes him with elbows from top pressure, tires him out, taking him some deeper rounds, I think he's live for a TKO finish. Whether or not he's considered a power puncher himself, he's 265 pounds, and has knocked out, better guys, in my opinion. So if he connects, I think he could get the finish. But again, this one's going down to the fact that Curtis Blaydes should be able to just grind on him. Now, BJJ black belt for Daukaus, but is he going to submit Blaydes off his back? Yeah, good luck with that one. Could he score a takedown on Blaydes himself? No, but puncher's chance is live because Blaydes, of course, can't take a great punch, and this kid does have quick hands, good power. Could happen, but I think the logical pick would be, Blaydes. Blaydes grinds him out, and that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, if it becomes a wrestling match, we've said it time and time again on this show, there's like over 30 pounds between these two guys. Those pounds are going to matter. Daukaus has to connect clean. It's a heavyweight fight. We've seen Blaydes hurt, but I think Blaydes will mind his P's and Q's. So I'm working on his head movement a bit on the gram. He knows at this point that he's compromised in one department, but the other part of his game is elite, and this is a matchup where, it could get a little bit dicey early, He may be a little bit tentative entering that pocket, but once he grabs a hold of him, he's just going to be so much stronger in those positions that it's hard to pick against Curtis Blaydes. I'm not going to fault somebody for taking, there's no props out, but I'm not going to fault somebody late in the week when this gets steamed for taking a flyer on Daukaus by knockout, because it's a possible outcome. I'm not going to... we've seen it happen before. It's not where I'm going with it, but that's where we're at. And just add to your other point there. Yeah, Grundy somebody dropped like a nuke on right before fight time. It went from minus 225 to minus 305. So that person had a worse day to move points that much at this book in particular. that person had a worse day than me, so it made me feel pretty good about it. All right, we got Aleksei Grasso taking on Joanne Wood, minus 225 Grasso, plus 185 Wood. This one's a bit of a tricky one, particularly because of the price. I like Aleksei Grasso, but minus 225 is maybe I'm feeling the scorn from laying chalk in a in women's MMA last week, but I feel like Joanne Wood could throw a lot of these like teep kicks, like front kicks to the knee, keep the boxer in Aleksei Grasso off of her a bit. I think Grasso has made a lot of improvements in her grappling game. I could see her holding this fight up against the cage a little bit. You've seen it in some of her more recent fights. And we forget, because she's been around for so long, that she's only like 28 years old. On the other side, you got Wood, who's 36. Durability got compromised against Taila Santos, who dropped her twice and dropped her pretty hard. That was a pretty nasty loss for Joanne Wood. This may be the end of the line for her. But if this fight is just like a straight-up boxing affair, I could see it being relatively close in terms of, who's throwing more strikes. Wood has the upper, she can throw in like 3 rounds. She can throw 130 significant strikes. Like that's happened before. Grasso doesn't really do that to that degree. So maybe she lands the more technical, clean, powerful strikes. Wood, it could get really, really dicey is all I'm really saying. So I'm going to pick Grasso in this spot, but I don't love it. I could see this playing out really, really close. What about you?
Yeah, so same thing here, right? Originally, I'm thinking, Jesus, line seems a little bit far out because what do we got on our hands? We got a women's MMA match that's going to be striker versus striker. Probably not a whole lot of threat of the takedown, I wouldn't think. And so it's probably going to go 15 minutes. It's probably going to be close and competitive. Paul, we see this week in and week out, in these tight striker versus striker matchups in women's MMA, it's going to be a tightly contested decision, right? And the underdog's always got a chance. So why can't Calderwood win, right? You look at the numbers and there's a lot you can like there. Calderwood is a volume striker, like you mentioned. She throws the teep. She throws lots of kicks. She stays very active. Just in recent fights, she scores 123 significant strikes against Lauren Murphy, 148 significant strikes against Jessica Ai, 101 significant strikes against Andrea Lee, 112 significant strikes against Caitlin Chukagian, a fight that she arguably won. Yeah, her at her best, she's just going to go throw mad volume. And Aleksei Grasso doesn't quite have that. She's hanging out more in that 60, 70, 80 strikes landed per fight. Also, you look at like Aleksei Grasso versus Ji-Yeon Kim. Like she doesn't look good in the first like 3-4 minutes, and that's against a very limited level of opposition. So there's going to be pass for Joanne Calderwood, I certainly believe. But yeah, man, 36. Jojo Bad Mofo's been around a long time, and she's starting to wear it. I thought she won the Caitlin Chukagian fight, but Jennifer Maia armbars her in the first round. She looked very flat in that fight. The Lauren Murphy fight, even though, again, I thought she won, she kind of gets out hustled. She gets out boxed. That's the problem with her striking. She's a Muay Thai striker. Kicks are good. Her elbows are good. Her knees are good. But her hands, her technical boxing, not very good. She doesn't move her head. She's open to get punched. So even though she'll land 2-3 teep kicks and she's beating you on volume, you just sucker her one straight time in the face, and the judges seem to react a lot more to that. And that's what Grasso's going to do. Far better with her boxing skills. Probably going to hit her. And then the Taila Santos fight, you mentioned you thought she was a little shot porn in that fight. Yeah, I think so, because before she's just getting hit, she can take it. She's bleeding. She's moving forward. But now she's getting dropped a couple times. Taila Santos is a heavy hitter, but again, Grasso's just very technical, very smart, and she's going to land sharp shots. So it kind of makes you lean back and forth. Here's another crazy thing about Joanne Calderwood. She's been around the game forever, right? You remember her fighting forever, back in the Cage Warriors days and this and that, moving up weight classes, right? If she was to defeat Aleksei Grasso, it might be the biggest win of her career. Look who she defeated. She beat Jessica Ai, who's irrelevant now. Andrea Lee on a split decision, and Andrea Lee wasn't very relevant then, starting to get going now. Ariane Lipsky, Kalindra Faria, Valerie Letourneau, Courtney Casey, Seohee Ham.
Val Letourneau.
She defeats low-level opposition, man.
Val Letourneau is a UFC, maybe a Bellator championship contender.
Letourneau got released from the UFC. Yeah, went to Bellator and then has had no success. I think she won one fight there, but yeah,
I'm joking. But she did somehow get title shots, which is insane.
Yeah, now Marina Moroz is still hanging in the division. She lost her Jessica Andrade, Cynthia Calvillo, Caitlin Chukagian, Jennifer Maia, Lauren Murphy, and Taila Santos. All girls that are actually relevant in the division, still hacking jobs. And she can't defeat that, right? The girls that are no longer with the promotion were low level. Now, should she have defeated Lauren Murphy? Should she have defeated Caitlin Chukagian? Could those be big wins for her? Absolutely. It's just she doesn't generally get the nod in these close competitive fights. And even though we've got another close and competitive one brewing up here, I don't know that strictly volume's enough to get it done. So yeah, I would think Grasso probably a little stronger in the clinch up against the cage. Grasso maybe doesn't have the volume, but is going to land the better shots, going to wow the judges a little bit more. And Calderwood's 0-2 since dropping the Calder part of her last name. So I'm going to run with that trend and say it goes to 0-3.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, it's dicey, though, because I could see it definitely being really close. I'm like, another spot, I'm not really going to fault you if you take the underdog, but it seems to be moving that way.
Fair,
so you may get plus 200 later in the week on Wood, and I'm not gonna fault you. I mean, if it's a close split decision, you want to be holding the plus 200 ticket. We got Askarov taking on Kai Kara France, minus 335 for Askarov. Kai Kara France can be had for plus 260. Who you got here, bud?
I think this is another one where just the line's starting to get blown out a little bit wide. I mean, we all love Askarov. This guy looks the goods, right? 13-0-1 13-0-1. He's undefeated, right? Just the one draw, and he's looked awesome on the regional scene. He's looked awesome when he's come into the UFC. Talk about a crazy run, right? His UFC debut is against Brandon Moreno, who's a future champion. The second fight's against Tim Elliott, who's a former title challenger. You fight Alexander Pantoja, who's fought all the best guys in the world and is a perennial top 3 to top 5 guy, and then Joseph Benavidez, who's a 4-time UFC title challenger. Those are your first 4 fights in the octagon, man, and I thought he's looked pretty good throughout. Here's the one issue is that the fight with Brandon Moreno was close, man. It ends up being a split draw. The fight with Tim Elliott was close. Shouldn't have been, but it was. Tim Elliott's walking him down at parts, having a lot of success, maybe 1-1 going to the third. That's actually a close fight. His fight with Pantoja, close. His fight with Joseph Benavidez, very competitive. And so do I want to pay 3-1 for a guy who's likely going to be in a competitive fight? Like that's what I'm slightly struggling at. Kai France, I think he's had a lot of limitations. A lot of people like to, I wouldn't say shit on him, but he was like a slow development. Goes on the Ultimate Fighter, fans out, signs with the UFC, supposed to be a big star, and then it's kind of been squeaky at best. But the guy, no doubt, is getting better. And his last 2 fights, he scored knockout wins over Cody Garbrandt and Rogerio Bontorin. But you got to look at it with a grain of salt. Cody Garbrandt just can't take a punch anymore. Clips him, fair enough. The Rogerio Bontorin fight, it's a scrap. It's a scrap to start. That's for damn sure. And he's able to clip him. Roy Val, ground game. Brandon Moreno, ground game. Those guys have been able to expose him. I think Askarov more likely mixes up his striking, gets a few takedowns here and there. But again, I don't know that I can trust him at those odds, but whatever. I parlay stuff together. So Askarov will be part of the parlay. I'm trying to figure out the best way to approach it because at 3-1, that screams top ticket, top 2 tickets. And I do think he wins, but Paul, it's flyweight action. It probably ends up being more striking than anything else. And Kai Kara France trains at an elite gym with elite kickboxers. It shows up in shape. So I don't think it's as straightforward as we'd love to believe it is. It's probably going to be competitive, but at the end of the day, I think they raise Askarov's hand. So that's the side I'm going to be on.
How's Askarov's wrestling? Because I think that's the real key for him in this fight. He seems like a very, very intelligent fighter when he's in there. I know that he's mostly a striker, but that Bontorin fight, like people forget, it's like Bontorin was able to take him down, was able to control him a whole bunch, and was a finish right at the end of round 1, a round that he was about to lose until like the knockdown and obviously the subsequent finish. Bontorin's complaining. It wasn't the best look, but Kai Kara France, He's probably the hardest hitter at 125 pounds. I don't even think that's really debatable at this point. He finishes dudes. He throws heat, and Askarov's chin will be checked. I'm leaning towards Askarov getting the job done as well, but I mean, we'll see over the course of this entire breakdown. Like a lot of these fight lines are getting a little bit out of line, and it's really early in the week, so they're only going to get worse. So Askarov for both of us. Don't love it though. We got Matt Brown taking on Bryan Barberena. Straight pick 'em here. And you know what? This is probably one of the first situations ever where Matt Brown is like the better wrestler in a fight. This will be like a hometown match for Matt Brown, who is from Ohio. I expect the fans to be in full support of him. And Bryan Barberena, I mean, every single time this guy goes in here, he just proves time and time again that he cannot stop a takedown. Darian Weeks took him down four times. Jason Witt, 8 times. Anthony Ivy took him down 5 times. Matt Brown is not exactly an elite wrestler. Maybe he goes, hey, I'm in my hometown. I just want to throw down. And these guys just go to war. Both of these guys were always touted as being like, really, really indestructible, great durability. But we've seen that flame away a little bit as they get a little bit older, a little bit longer in the tooth, that it's slowing down a little bit. Their ability to take damage is definitely compromised. But, the smart path to victory, I think, here for Matt Brown is really lean on those takedowns. Grind Barberena out. Use your cardio to your advantage and make this a little bit more ugly. Will he end up in a situation where he, kind of placates the crowd? Maybe. I'm going to pick Matt Brown, but I'm very interested to hear what you got on this one because this is a very playable line for us.
Yeah, I got to agree. I'm leaning towards Matt Brown. I didn't think I would. Like, Bryan Barberena, they're both shop worn, right? They're both kind of getting near that stage. You made a great point. They're getting a little bit older, this stage in their career. Bryan Barberena is 9 years younger than Matt Brown. Matt Brown's 41. You know what destroyed his durability? Father Time. You know what destroyed Bryan Barberena's durability? His no ability to defend himself from punches. This guy is punched up. If he was to fight in the UFC for 9 more years, and get to Matt Brown's age, he'd be eating Jell-O the rest of his life. Like, you can't continuously fight like this, and you can actually just kind of see the trend in his career. So, had notorious wars, right? He was known as an upset guy, and he'd come in at big plus money, and he'd just put on an absolute battle. And it starts with the Vicente Luque fight, because here's a fight where he should not be anywhere competitive with Vicente Luque. He's a former 55er moving up. Vicente Luque is one of the best in the world. And Bryan Barberena gives him absolutely everything he can handle deep into the third round, back and forth, absolutely crazy fight, and then Vicente Luque knocks him out. And at that point, Bryan Barberena wasn't getting knocked out, but it was such a thrilling battle. It's like, okay, you give him a pass. That point, his chin's gone. His very next fight against Randy Brown, his reflexes are shot. He's just way slower. Doesn't look like the same guy. Doesn't wear any of the shots nearly the same. And now Randy Brown knocks him out. Now, him and Vicente went at it. Him and Randy didn't really go at it. Randy just kicked his ass. So this was not a good performance for him. After that, he ends up getting back surgery. He balloons up to 230 pounds. He contemplates retirement. He goes through a ton of personal issues. They book him to come back against Anthony Ivy. He doesn't look himself, right? He wins a decision over probably the worst guy on the roster and gets taken down 5 times. Very bad look, but okay, give him a pass. He's been off for a little bit of time, and he had some health issues. The Jason Witt fight, oh my God, Paul. Not only does he get out wrestled, which we knew that would happen because of the Anthony Ivy fight, but Jason Witt's bombing on him. He takes a lot of clean shots right to the chin and gets wobbled against Jason Witt. Man, real bad look. Now he's booked to fight Matt Brown, right? He's booked to fight him December 4th last year. Matt Brown tests positive for COVID, so he's out. Darian Weeks takes the fight on like 4 days' notice. Darian Weeks is 5-0. Darian Weeks has never fought at this level. He's never fought a named opponent. He landed 118 significant strikes and multiple takedowns. Bryan Barberena squeezed it out. Like, holy shit, man. He's grinding the bottom of the barrel and not doing a very good job of doing it. And so with Matt Brown, I'm worried that he's not going to have as much volume. Like, Bryan Barberena likes to get in your face and push a pace, but Matt Brown's so savvy, dude. He just sits and he waits for that perfect shot, right? He doesn't let the volume typically get away too far away from him. You saw in the last fight with Diego Lima, the whole game was let's his calf kick him, and they busted up his calf. Still moving real good on it. Still circling well. Body kick moving well. Waiting for that right hand, and the shot that slept Lima, oh my God. Heavy right hand. Dude's all the way out before he hits the canvas. He hits Bryan Barberena with the same shot. He's going to rock him. You saw in the Miguel Beza fight, sure he does lose, rocks him early. Like, he's still got his old-timey big man power. His timing's not terribly off. He's fighting at home. He's Matt the Immortal Brown. The Immortal chugs on, whereas, like, Bryan Barberena is just red flag after red flag, and I don't want to see anything happen to the guy because he's a clear fan favorite. We all love him. We all love watching him fight, but, like, at what expense? He entertains us. But he's got to think about himself, dude. And, like, guys that take the fight on 3 days' notice. By the way, Weeks had wrestled a little bit back in high school. He was a boxer. Like, he wasn't even known to be a grappler. So Matt Brown could out-wrestle him. Matt Brown could outstrike him. Matt Brown could knock him out. Matt Brown could squeeze out a greasy decision if it went that far because it's in Ohio. So, yeah, dude, I'm hearing you. I'm actually going to go towards the Brown side of this one.
And it's funny because, like, I look around the market, and it seems like it opened at, like, minus 150 Matt Brown. and money is piling in on Barberena, so we may get some plus money
You
on
could
this.
see it, but 41, how often do we want to bank on the 41-year-old guy heavy, right? But
I'm
I'm
not going to be
seeing the
heavy,
same
but
lane
it's
and the
probably
same
going to
path
be
that you are, man.
it's going to be my first bet of the week, it seems like.
Yeah.
Which is scary. The next one, like this next fight, I feel personally attacked. We got both of my boys. We got the sledgehammer, Ilir Latifi taking on Aleksei Oleinik. Latifi minus 170, Oleinik plus 150. Now, I made a little joke on Twitter. It wasn't really a joke. I totally mean it. Just like, here's the problem, is that you can't submit somebody who doesn't have a neck. Look at Ilir Latifi's profile picture there. There is no neck. There is no neck to be, like, you can't get that scarf hold. You can't get the, what's the one that...
Ezekiel?
The Ezekiel. There's just nothing to choke. But the problem with Ilir Latifi, particularly at minus 170, is like we're gonna have to rely on Ilir Latifi to take down the submission expert, hold possession while he's there, and I think he can do all of those things. But if this fight takes place a lot on the feet, Sledgehammer just doesn't throw strikes. Like, it can be 10 significant strikes over the course of 15 minutes. He had 5 significant strikes in a decision loss to Derek Lewis. Like, this guy just doesn't throw. He just doesn't throw his hands. It's very boom or bust. He hasn't knocked anybody out since like Cyril Diabate. I called that one. That was a big one for the boys. But and I think he was like plus money in that spot. I thought he was going to smash him, but actually, I think if memory serves correct, so Cyril Diabate he did knock out, but I think his other previous knockout win was Sean O'Connell back in 2016 at light heavyweight. So now we're talking about heavyweight. Now, Oleinik, is he really a heavyweight? He's a 43, 44-year-old man. He's getting up there in age, and he is a little bit broken. I'm gonna pick Latifi, but it could get dicey if Aleksei is looking for submissions while they're down there. It's not a fight that like if it was closer to a pick'em, I'm all over Latifi, but minus 170, I'm starting to get priced out of the situation, and I do not want to have money on old man Aleksei at this point in his career. So Ilir Latifi is the pick, but he just doesn't throw enough for me to feel great about the situation. What's your take here?
Yeah, we're going to need the judges on our side for this one, and we're going to need the fans to quiet down if it's a real stinker, because I think it's going to be a real stinker with Ilir Latifi in top position, and he's going to win a decision. I don't think it's going to be a very thrilling fight, but I think that he's the right side on it. The thing with Latifi is that he could knock out Aleksei Oleinik, because I know what you're saying. He hasn't knocked out anybody really in a while, and all bums, right? I Cyril Diabate, my boy, he was just real old. But Chris Dempsey, bum, he smashes him. He smashes him. Hans Stringer smashes him. Sean O'Connell smashes him. And if anybody remembers the Ovid St. Preux fight, it's a standing guillotine choke, but he clips Ovid St. Preux and gets him absolutely rocked and then grabs the guillotine choke while the dude's half conscious. So he has, they call him a sledgehammer for a reason. He can throw down. His issue is that he's fought a lot of world-class guys now where just bum rushing them for 2 minutes is not going to get the job done. Corey Anderson's world-class operator. Volkan Ozdemir is world-class operator. Derek Lewis, world-class operators. And all three of them are, Corey Anderson's a Bellator title challenger now, but they're all world-class guys, really, at the end of the day. When he decides he's moving up to heavyweight, I say, well, that's the end of his career, Paul. He's a natural middleweight that just eats so much horse meat that he's up at 205 anyways. Now he's going to take his little 5'10 frame, 73-inch reach. He's going to take it up to heavyweight. No shot. This guy's got no shot. They book him against Derek Lewis. Little Cody runs to the bank. Let's go big on Derek Lewis here. Oh, my God, Paul. Texas judges definitely maybe helped. Maybe Lewis did win it. But this is a bad fight, man. Latifi gets the takedowns. He goes out, he takes down Lewis. He holds down Lewis. Lewis lands some sporadic strikes standing for like the beginning of the round or the end of the round whenever they have a mercy and let him stand back up. But Latifi did an excellent job of controlling a big, strong dude on the ground. Just didn't get the decision. Some people thought he won. Judges didn't agree on that night. Then the Tanner Boser fight. Here's another big, solid heavyweight. A big, large guy who's not even 30 years old, moves well. I don't know, man. Same thing. It's like not much happens. I thought he lost on a personal level, but he can go out and he can get those takedowns. Now with Aleksei Oleinik, it's the same thing. You just took down Derek Lewis and Tanner Boser. You're going to be able to get takedowns over 44-year-old Oleinik. He doesn't even stop takedowns half the time because he's so happy to go to the ground. But You're going to want to submit Ilir Latifi, never been submitted in his pro career, doesn't have a neck, like you've already mentioned, right? Puts himself in like non-vulnerable situations to get submitted. And also when you look at Aleksei Oleinik, it was like, Lewis hits too hard. Daukaus is too fast. Walt Harris is too explosive. You make excuses for those big, heavy hitting guys. But the Sergey Spivak fight, he starts off well in the first round. He's out striking Spivak, dude, backing him up. All Spivak does is just get the takedown and just shut him down. And that's all he did for the second round. And that's all he did for the third round. Once he got the takedowns, there was nothing being offered by Oleinik off his back. I know he's tricky, and I know he's got an Ezekiel, and I know he's got a scarf hold, I know he's got all these moves, but usually it's him on top. He needs to be on top to get the scarf hold, right? The Ezekiel he can set up off his back like Victor Pesta, but how often is that going to happen? Especially on you're trying to Ezekiel a fire hydrant, like try to get your arms around this thing. It's just like, oh god.
We don't have,
right?
He doesn't have a neck to get your arms around.
So. Yeah, and I know Latifi can get takedowns because he gets takedowns in all of his fights. I know he can get takedowns, and I think he's going to get takedowns here. Oleinik, meanwhile, at 44, I don't think he's just going to be throwing up wizardry off his back one more time. And so I think it's just going to be him getting grounded and Latifi staying on top. Latifi could land the kill shot standing, but he seems to be fighting smarter at heavyweight and trying to pace himself, and that would likely lead to him just getting a takedown off push him up against the cage, get a takedown, hold him down, and win it that way. So minus 170, not a great price tag, but yeah, you've already mentioned the theme of this card is a lot of these lines don't feel great, but he's trying to make their money back. So they got a bunch of trap lines that we just got to hopefully avoid them. I feel like Latifi will be on the right side of it. But again, his last two fights have been hotly contested decisions. If this thing's a hotly contested decision, do you want to be on his side? Do you want to be on the guy who is throwing up submissions off his back? Like typically I want the guy from Top Control. So I'm going to go with Ilir.
And we're in Columbus, and I don't know if there's much of a history of the Ohio Commission, but they probably don't run too many fights. So prepare for Texas-worthy type of judging, because you never really know. That's a big red flag too. Is that these types of smaller states that usually don't get too many shows. They haven't been too busy. They don't have necessarily the best judges all the time in these places. So prepare for mayhem. All right, moving on down, we got Manon Fiorot taking on Jennifer Maia. I'm not going to bore you too much with my breakdown of this. Minus 450 for Fiorot. Plus 350 for Maia, another line that seems like it's a little bit juiced, but it keeps moving. It's probably going to continue to move. I don't know how much more it's going to move. I'm waiting on Fiorot by decision here. I think we saw in Fiorot's last fight out that she's got some power in the hands, but Bueno Silva was able to. Bueno Silva really had like a Bobby Green style there. She was eating a whole bunch of shots, shaking her head, saying it didn't hurt, putting her chin out, like hit me again, but just like losing consistently every single second of that fight. It wasn't particularly close. Manon Fiorot is putting up over 100 significant strikes. It was a very, very clean victory. Jennifer Maia, super, super durable, went the distance with the champ. She is solid at everything, but I think the pace of this fight really breaks her down. The long-range weapons for Manon Fiorot should be the big difference here. She'll be able to skirt around the outside. I believe we're in a small cage, which should be good, or a big cage, sorry, which should be good for Fiorot. I see Fiorot winning a very convincing 30-27 decision, and we're on to the next. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think pretty much the same thing. Jennifer Maia is a little bit slow, a little bit plodding. She comes from that shoot-to-box background, but she fights flat-footed. And I think if you look at, we'll talk about the last two, but the Jessica Eye fight, Jessica Eye lands 100 significant strikes on her, right? Outboxes her and is able to matador for the most part. That's another one of these very close fights, but there ends up being a headbutt in the second round that busts Jessica Eye open. Now she's bleeding the whole time, and it's still really close. There's an argument that Jessica Eye wins the fight. Because she's bleeding all over the place, it's a slight edge towards Jennifer Maia. And we know who she is. Now, the Katlyn Chookagian fight, it's like, okay, we need to load up on Katlyn Chookagian because she's very mobile. She fights to the outside. She's going to have way more volume. She should defeat Jennifer Maia in every aspect. Now, people keep bringing up the Jennifer Maia took down Valentina Shevchenko. Like, man, it's such a wonky-ass takedown. It's like a caught kick. Shevchenko falls to her back. And that moment, you have to hear about it every time Jennifer Maia's name comes up because it's like, She won a round against Valentina Shevchenko. Her wrestling's good. She doesn't consistently get her wrestling going enough, and she's not slow, or she's not fast enough to really cut off the cage, get a hold of her opponent, and put it to good use. So the end result is Katlyn Chookagian dances around her, outstrikes her 72-52, and Katlyn Chookagian is the one that gets the takedown. This fight with Manon Fiorot is going to go very much the same. When you watch her, she's extremely mobile because she's a karate black belt. She's someone that spent a lot of time moving linearly, moving backwards, and throwing off her strikes. She throws a beautiful step inside kick. She throws a beautiful, like, just range-finding shots to the knee, shot to the body, shot to the leg. Excellent with her kick output, and her hands are pretty heavy as well. She's getting more comfortable. She's one of these fighters that came to the UFC, and I liked her right off the get-go because she's already 31. She's not young, needs to learn a whole bunch of stuff. She's someone who's been practicing martial arts for a very long time and just needs to go and start fighting better competition to get a little more, name recognition. She's done a good job of that. She's looked excellent in her 3 UFC fights. Of course, the first fight with Victor Leonardo, you're taking on a very low-talented fighter. The fight with Tabor Tarichi, you're taking on a very undersized fighter. And the last time against Mario Bueno Silva, fight similar to Jennifer Maia, right? Similar style. Mm-hmm. Shoot to box, flat-footed, come in, throw hooks, get the crowd going, do the Bobby Green head shake, do the wave, but you're getting outpointed the whole time. So what's it matter that you're getting the fans involved? You're getting outpointed. And I think that Fiorot fights the exact same game plan. The thing is that she was supposed to, maybe not, I guess. This is going to sound broken record shit. It's just a big line. Women's MMA minus 450. Like, I love the girl, but she's taking on a former title challenger, and this is a big line.
Yeah,
so if it ends up being striker versus striker and it's going to go 15 minutes, do I really want that much investment? Maybe not, but Fiorot is the correct side.
I'm very interested to see where the Fiorot by decision prop, because that's where my money's going to end up being. I mean, the over 2.5 is minus 200 out there. But people are actually betting the under on that pretty early. So maybe a Fiorot by decision will be a decent spot. I think if it's like minus 150 or better, I'm going to be on Fiorot by decision in this situation. That's all I got for that. We got Neil Magny taking on Max Payne. Griffin, minus 235 Magny, plus 190 Griffin. Who you got here?
This one, in my mind, should be pretty straightforward for Neil Magny, but I don't know. I don't know if I can trust Neil Magny at the same levels anymore. Minus 235 seems like a reasonable enough price tag, and Magny, he's 34 now. He's got everything you'd want in a fighter. He's just not at an elite caliber. He's got great cardio. He's got good durability. He's got great ring IQ. Striking's pretty serviceable. Loves to fight volume. Good wrestling. He's able to take guys down, control them. He just can't really seem to get over that hump of, like, the big challengers. But as far as, guys that are going to come and engage him, try to strike with him, not really mix that much of that grappling, he seems to thrive over those guys. Jing Liang Li fight, of course, his striking and his grappling both on point. The Rocco Martin fight, he relied heavily on his grappling. The Robbie Lawler fight completely neutralizes him. And that Jeff Neal fight, his last time out, minds his P's and Q's, fights very smart, and again, starts to put volume together. Max Griffin, meanwhile, is someone that we've made money with the last number of fights because he doesn't really fight all that often. And when he fights, they kind of give him these soft matchups, and he can go out there and he can look good. Here's his issue, right? So his wins, okay? Zelim Imadaev, who was a Russian boxer, was supposed to be way better than he ended up being, but it wasn't a grappler. He was a boxer, right? Ramiz Brahimaj, straight up grappler, attempted 0 takedowns. And that's stupid. The guy's an IBJJF, like blue belt champion, only has grappling, actually can't strike for shit, and attempts 0 takedowns. And his ear falls off because he just fights the world's worst game plan and deserved to lose a limb, or not a limb, but a digit. He'll deserve to lose something for that one, more than just a fight. The Song Kanong fight doesn't go very long, but very limited level of opponent, and Song Kanong obviously doesn't attempt any takedowns. And then, funny enough, Carlos Condit did attempt 4, but it's Carlos Condit, right? So I don't know that when you have seen him take on guys that can wrestle a little bit, like Alex Oliveira was able to pick him up, slam him to the ground, have a lot of success with it. So I think Magny can stand with Griffin. I think they're both long man strikers. They both like to stay to the outside. They both like to catch their opponents on like the end of their shots. But I think Magny's going to have slightly a little more volume, Griffin a little more power. But then Magny eventually is going to close the distance, get a hold of him, put him up against the cage, neutralize him, take away one of his arms, pull him to the ground. And at that point, he either seals up the round en route to a decision, or eventually he can tire him out, get him in a bad spot on the ground, and maybe look to put him away late. But I got Neil Magny. I think I really like what he does in terms of game planning and how he figures out his opponents. And I think there's a lot to figure out with Griffin, a lot to work with. And Magny would have multiple paths to victory if he goes and just utilizes the right one. Great, but Neil Magny's the pick for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just think the cardio of Neil Magny, it's on par with some of the best guys in the division. The output is usually pretty good. He throws very, very long strikes. Doesn't have too much power, but he's not really dealing with somebody throwing intense heat coming back at him. And he probably can take this fight to the mat and control the grappling exchanges here too. Griffin has all right wrestling, but he's not like Michael Chiesa. So I think Neil Magny's a pretty decent pick all the way around. Again, as you were saying, like minus 235, so the rest of the world is figuring out that Neil Magny is also a pretty decent parlay piece / play this week.
The teams have been fighting all season long to secure their shot at being crowned a champion. Just as the teams are in pursuit of glory, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving their new customers a shot at royalty with 40-1 odds on any college basketball game. Just bet $5 on any college basketball team to win their next game, and if they win, DraftKings will pay out $200 in free bets. DraftKings Sportsbook has nearly endless ways to get in on the action, from same-game parlays to future betting. Feel the sweat with DraftKings now. Don't worry if you've already been taking advantage of this offer. There are still plenty of ways to get in on the hoops action with DraftKings Daily Fantasy. DraftKings offers nearly endless opportunities to make it rain with their daily fantasy contests, which have millions of dollars up for grabs every week. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DOP. Throw down just $5 on the college basketball game of your choice to get $200 in free bets if the team you choose wins. That's code DOP at DraftKings Sportsbook.
All right, we got Viacheslav Borshchev taking on Marc Diakiese. Borshchev is a minus 190 favorite. Diakiese can be had for plus 160. My initial thought here is, are we dealing with a little bit of recency bias here? Borshchev, he's looked good in his Contender Series fight, and he looked good against Dakota Bush. This guy's a potent finisher. But Diakiese, if you don't have a real grappling edge on him, which he got completely exposed, obviously, against Rafael Alves back in November. But before that, he's in a close competitive fight with a ridiculously talented kickboxer in Rafael Fiziev, and now they're laying a plus 160 price tag against a really unproven Dana White Contender Series graduate in Borshchev here. I'm leaning towards Diakiese to get back on track here, but I'm not going to jump in on anything until you tell me what's up.
Honestly, the fight gets announced, and I'm thinking to myself, this would be a good opportunity to maybe snag some dog money on Borshchev. I think Borshchev probably does win the fight. And then I seen the line, I was like, oh man, either people are way on or recency bias. And I think it's recency bias. Here's my problem with Marc Diakiese is that he may be a bit of a head case, but he's super inconsistent, man. The guy's, when he's good, he's pretty good. When he's bad, he is awful. And you look at him in some of these, his early fights, he's smashing them. He's looking like everybody's darling. He loses to Jakar Close as a minus 250 favorite, and I thought he looked terrible. He lost to Dan Hooker as a minus 175 favorite. He looked terrible. He lost both rounds and then got choked out in the third. He lost to Nasrat Haqparast as a minus 160 favorite. Looked terrible, got outstruck the whole way. So now you just lost 3 fights as a considerable favorite in all 3 of them. Beats Joe Duffy and Lando Venata. But now that Fiziev fight, wouldn't you know he got lined as a minus 175 favorite? Now that's not nobody's fault. That was just bad. That was a bad move by the line. We didn't know in Fiziev. Who knows? But again, the Rafael Fiziev fight, he starts off well, and then when he gets clipped and he feels the power, he gets gun shy at that point. Now he doesn't really have any X factors. He doesn't have any variables. He doesn't have an ability to say, the striking's not going my way, I'm going to mix in my wrestling. He just doesn't really put his game fully together. In his last fight against Rafael Alves, he's a minus 240 favorite. So essentially his 5 fights in the UFC have all come while he was the favorite, considerable favorite at best, and he's not looking good. You can make excuses Fiziev's an elite striker. You could make an excuse that some other guy is an elite grappler. And Rafael Alves' point, he did it all, man. He smashed him in the face with a flying knee. He got his attention. He rocked him with the right hand, and then he choked him out. He actually beat his ass from pillar to post. Now, Mike Diakiese used to go to American Top Team, but not the case anymore. He generally spends his time at his own gym in the UK, gets a little bit of workout there. I don't think he's made any progression as a fighter. He's got a snappy jab, doesn't have any real power I can get behind. His wrestling seems to have made no advancements. Just can't get behind him. Borshchev, meanwhile, what we've seen is that the guy's an elite striker. Like, he just packs heavy heat. He is hittable. Maybe his chin's not great. You saw Dakota Bush absolutely rock him early. But you got to kill him or he's going to get back up and keep coming at you. And that's what he does in all of his fights. He goes down, he gets right back up, and he comes at you. Guys think, oh, well, I'll just out-wrestle him. Well, good luck. Because you can take what's his name? Slavaclaus. You can take Slavaclaus down, but he gets back up. It's probably the time in the alpha male room, right? He gets taken down on the daily, but he works his way back up. And when he works his way back up, it's nothing short of power hooks again and again. So Diakiese, to me, doesn't like fighting at a high pace. The higher the pace, the quicker the output. He just seems to fade in those spots. I think Borshchev's going to come after him. Borshchev's going to work his body, which is also going to lead to Diakiese's cardio getting slow. Diakiese will probably shoot reactionary takedowns, which is eventually going to tire him out. And once this thing gets two tired guys that are a little sloppier in the second and third round, Borshchev's going to connect with a hook over the top, probably put him away. So I think Borshchev wins. I just think it's going to be a very volatile fight that could, it's going to be high risk. Strikers are going at it. Diakiese's probably the more talented guy. I just favor the pressure game. Nate Landwehr is supposed to be on this card. Sometimes you don't need all the skill in the world. You just need the pressure, right? Landwehr's a pressure guy. Love him. Borshchev's a pressure guy. You could take him down, sure, but you're not going to hold him down for 15 minutes. And when he gets back up, he makes you pay. I don't know that Diakiese is going to be able to handle that. So this is another fight where I strongly do disagree with the line. I honestly thought it would be slight favorite status Diakiese, and we get some good dog money here on Borshchev. But the lines makers are really sharpening up, man. This card's either been steamed because it's far in advance, or I don't know. You remember back in the day, you and I, when we started the show like 9 years ago, odds didn't get released until Wednesday.
Ngannou against complete scrubs at Pick'ems.
Yeah, but remember the lines used to only drop on Wednesday? We'd be shooting on Wednesday and be like, oh man, they're not out yet. And maybe we'll shoot Thursday morning or we'll do a show with no odds. And then
now you got people out there who just I put 12 units on Fiorot minus 225, and it's just
3 weeks in advance.
One, what book are you using? And two, what's the size of your unit? Not that I'm unit shaming by any stretch of the imagination.
Unit shaming, Paul. How big's your unit, pal?
Whatever, but how big is your? But yeah, it's just that's all well and good, but I know the books that open these things up, and the maximum that you can get on a lot of these opening lines is to win $250. So is what
steams them though.
It really is what it is, but yeah, by the time you're able to actually put big wagers down on things, that minus 225 has moved to minus 400, minus 500, like a Fiorot situation. That's just the nature of the beast in 2022, my friend. What else is the nature of the beast is we've got former title challenger Sara McMann, Mama Bear McMann, taking on Karol Rosa. Mama Bear McMann is a plus 185 underdog against Karol Rosa. How the mighty have fallen, but McMann is 41, and we've seen it so many times. The old MQ. People in the know what I mean. Sara McMann will take down pretty much everybody. She'll take them down, use that Olympic level wrestling, take people down at will early and often, and then tends to fall off of a cliff later on in the fight. I'm not very interested in Karol Rosa minus 225. I've seen some people float the idea out there. Karol Rosa, not exactly a potent finisher by any stretch of the imagination. Sara McMann probably pushes forward, gets a takedown early in this fight. Maybe she's able to sink in a choke or a submission of some sort. I wouldn't count on that. Be looking to back Karol Rosa if she's down around, and they're giving you plus money or something like that after round one. When we're talking about live betting, obviously these are scenarios that may not show up. It's like us talking about Volkov last week. It's if Volkov gets finished in round one, you're not going to get him at plus money after we thought Tom Aspinall would have a hot start. I like Rosa to win here, but Sara McMann's an elite wrestler. Maybe she's able to hold her down. Maybe she's able to hold her down for 2 rounds and then hold on for dear life in round 3. That's a possibility too. But if this fight stays upright on the feet, Rosa's going to outvolume her all day, every day of the week. So I'll pick Rosa. I don't think I'm going to be getting involved pre-fight, though. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's going to be greasy early. I think the move is, and Karol Rosa, my girl, always back her, but I think we're going to get a live better price if we just bet it live. McMann's had 16 UFC fights, right? She's taken down 14 of those 16 opponents. The two girls that she never took down is Amanda Nunes and Ronda Rousey, right? So she gets takedowns in all of her fights, Paul. This one will be no different. She'll go and get the takedown. Her issue is that I don't know if it's pacing. I don't know what it is, but she just fades. And when she fades, she's got a little bit of quit in her. When you look at the Ketlin Vieira fight, she starts off really good in the first round, gets submitted in the second. Mary Renault fight starts off really good in the first round, triangled in the second. Juliana Pena fight, relatively competitive early, gets submitted in the third. The longer the fights go, the submission becomes available. Can't quite figure it. I was looking for it earlier. I want to say it might be the Alexis Davis fight. Do you remember that fight? She wins, and she takes like a short little elbow in the side of the face. And then the post-fight interview, she's like, half my face paralyzed during the fight. Remember that? No. Anyways, doesn't matter, but I'll find it. I'll find it because I remember it, and I remember thinking, oh my God, you can never back this girl in a fight. Like,
I broke
she just
my
said
back.
half of her face got paralysis when she took a short little elbow, and she was happy to get the win. But she's a wrestling coach at Team Alpha Male, and she trains Corey McKenna. That was like her thing. She's gonna help Corey McKenna wrestle. Corey McKenna fought the absolute worst game plan because she decided not to wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really down in those spots. She's fought world-class operators, nothing short of world-class operators. She's going to get the takedown. She's going to have some success. I just think that Rosa is very active off her back. Rosa is a BJJ black belt, and Rosa is going to keep the pace going to the point that in the second round, the takedown won't be as easy. The third round, if it gets that far, you might not get it at all, and then Rosa is going to take over. So Rosa, again, women's MMA, anything can happen. And her takedown defense on the regional scene, it don't look great. Officially in the UFC, she's only been taken down once, but it was against Jocelyn Edwards. So she's going to get taken down.
Yeah.
She's really going to have to make something happen off her back. And to me, Karol Rosa is just like a tad bit undersized. Like she fights at 135, but she looks like she's got the frame of a 25er. Whereas Sara McMann's very big and very strong. So if she gets takedowns and holds them for 2 rounds, you're right. It could be a 2018 McMann. I think if it's a 2018 McMann, as a lot of people would say, she's going to pull a stunt and lose in the third because you've seen her blow it late enough times, right? So I got to say Karol Rosa gets the job done, but it's another wide line. And you know what? Minus 225 is so much more reasonable compared to some of the other fights on this card. I like Rosa at 225 way better than I like Grasso at 225. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. What about Magny? I think I like Magny more than Rosa.
Magny at 235. Yeah, Magny at 235 is a good price tag. Latifi, it's going to be so greasy, but that 170 will be key for me. Yep. Matt Brown, we're taking a shot, but again, minus 110 would really juice things up. We should get a better price on Borshchev, but it's not going to happen. Yeah, in terms of stuff that you like.
Yeah, I don't love too much on this card.
Like Neil Magny, we can agree there. I like Fiorot. The price is too big. We'll talk it at the end, I guess. But
yeah,
there's actually a couple good fights coming up that'll help juice some value.
Yeah, this next one's kind of interesting because I was a little bit torn on it. Danaa or Batgerel, I believe is how you actually pronounce his name. You always do like last name and then first name for these guys. Pick that up while watching tape. Joe Rogan was like texted like mid-fight apparently by his corner man or something like that, saying like it's actually Batgerel. He takes on Chris Gutierrez minus 155. Batgerel. Gutierrez can be had for plus 135. Interesting fight, definitely. Batgerel training out of Jackson Winklejohn. That first fight against Aleksei, it was a hell of a war, and we have learned since then that Aleksei is tougher than a $2 steak. This guy can take an absolute beating. We saw it very recently in the Casey Kenny fight that this guy just is like almost indestructible, and that's kind of how he had to fight in that fight against Danaa. And he gets through, but it's mostly just based on like takedowns and a takedown late in round 3 where he's able to hold it. These are their debuts, whatever. Following that, Danaa takes on Guido Canetti, Kevin Natividad, and Brandon Davis, and we see that this guy has dynamite in his hands. The one spot that I thought was kind of interesting, and it was only a 3-minute fight, but Guido coming out of the southpaw, we know how he likes to swing that left hook and that the left kick. He swings them, and he makes him stumble, makes Bakary Danaa stumble a couple times. Obviously, it didn't really matter. Bakary Danaa is able to move forward, but like his legs got banged up, and like to the point that he lost his footing twice early in that fight against Guido Canetti. Now he's taking on like Chris Gutierrez, who like 80% of his strikes are leg kicks. I'm a little bit torn on this one, but because Gutierrez has never been knocked out, we saw Bakary Danaa slow down a little bit in the Alatang Hali fight. Add all of those things together, plus the leg kicking situation. I think this is a dog or pass situation, so I'm going to lean towards Chris Gutierrez. What about you?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. You need underdogs in every card. Don't really got a whole lot to this point. I think Chris Gutierrez is live. I've always liked Chris Gutierrez when it's a striking battle. The problem is the dude just can't wrestle, man. His takedown defense is so porous. This is a fight where it should help out because Bakary Danaa has scored 0 takedowns in the UFC. I think he's shot 0 takedowns in the UFC. He does not wrestle. People speculated maybe in the Brandon Davis fight, maybe he'll wrestle a little bit, but it didn't need to. He just backs him up and lands huge power. Brandon Davis was another one of these guys with a great chin on him. But when this guy backs you up and touches you, he's got a ton of power. Gutierrez is going to have to mind his P's and Q's, but he's way faster. I believe this is in a bigger octagon because they're fighting in Columbus. Like it's not one of their regular Apex shows. So he's going to have a lot of room to stay to the outside matador. That's Chris Gutierrez at his best. He likes to counterpunch. He likes the guy being aggressive, and he's going to pivot off of you, set up some traps, and land the leg kicks. The leg kicks will add up in dividends the longer the fight goes. I don't think he's going to clip him with any power because Gutierrez has got almost no power in his hands. So it'd be a little bit, Guido Canetti at least sits down on that left hand. Like, I don't think he's going to knock him out or finish him. It's he's going to have to stay on his back foot, move laterally, pick and point, and just, rack up points on the judges' scorecards en route to a decision if he's going to win. But as far as a live underdog, striker versus striker, he's not lost in these striker versus striker matchups. It's when guys are able to, mix things up and take him down. So I think he's got a decent enough shot. With Bakary as well, you mentioned the Isla Tang fight. It's very high pace, and he lands a lot in the third round still. It's just he noticeably is fatigued, taking on a guy that only had a grappling strategy. And his 3 subsequent fights have been first-round knockouts. But he trains out of Jackson Winklejohn, which is one of the worst camps in the game right now, right? So I'm not really full sure. I'd be willing to take a shot. They are. 5 years ago, they're one of the best gyms in the world. And then Jackson kind of splits. He's sleeping with Julie Kedzie. His wife leaves him. He goes to the side. It turns out Michael Winklejohn's a scam artist. He's trying to get money out of these guys. John Jones wrecks a few more cars. Everybody leaves the gym. And guys like Diego Sanchez been there their entire career, go on record saying it's cancerous. Mike Perry was like, too much drama for me. What? Did Mike Perry just say this place has got too much drama? Wow. I've seen it all. And then the record of their fighters since then is just continuously going downhill. Bad vibe. There's actually a offset gym at the Acoma, right? Jackson Wink Acoma, whatever you want to call it. I think it's Acoma. They seem to have their shit together, and they're not even hanging with these guys. So, yeah, not that that's going to affect this Mongolian fighter in the slightest bit. I just mean everything's there for me to willingly take a shot on the underdog. Gutierrez has got the goods to pull this one off, and at that plus money, he'd be my first underdog shot.
All right, we got David Dvorak taking on Matheus Nicolau, -140 Dvorak, +120 Nicolau. Who you got here, buddy?
I think I'm going to go with another underdog shot here in Matheus Nicolau. Again, this is close to a pick'em. You could see it going either way. And with Matheus, I feel like he's ultra talented. Maybe he just hasn't been able to fully show it. It looks like his low volume is kind of his issue, is that he goes out there, he can wrestle, he can grapple. Cardio seems pretty good. Durability seems pretty good. Trains at one of the best gyms in the world. Girlfriend, premier mixed martial artist. This kid's going to be good eventually. And they don't do him no favors. Like, they had released him from the organization once upon a time, but that was one of the most ridiculous cuts I thought. I thought this Matheus Nicolau kid has got a bright future, could go on to become something, and then they flirted with destroying the 125 division, so they released him. but he had wins over John Moraga, a title challenger, Louis Smolka, one of the more established guys in the division at the time. Since they brought him back, wins over Manel Kape. Manel Kape's an excellent fighter, former Ryzen champion, very athletic, huge power, can wrestle, BJJ brown belt. He's a problem, and he wins a split decision, but rightful winner, he goes out there and gets the win. The fight with Tim Elliott's a former title challenger. He's a guy that's a perennial top 10, 15 guy. He can give anybody in the world a tough fight. He's usually in these close competitive scraps. This is another close competitive scrap. First round, Elliott's backing him up and outstriking him, which is not a great look. Second round, all of a sudden, it's like Matheus Nicolau's landing the better shots. He sits and he waits for the proper, not enough volume, but he lands great selection shots and wins the second round, in my opinion. Third round, he knows it's 1-1. It's anybody's fight. He goes in, he shoots the takedown, gets the takedown, neutralizes him for 4 minutes of the round, gets back up, minds his P's and Q's, wins the round. Fight's very tidy, trains out of an excellent gym. I think that he could go out there and he could put a proper game plan together. With Dvorak, meanwhile, the guy's super talented, no doubt about it, but he's not fighting the same level of opposition. Jordan Espinoza, Jun Camilo Ronderos, like, come on, get out of here, dude. And he might have a grappling problem. He may have a few issues in his game. He may have a few issues that Matheus Nicolau can go and show him a few things. I think one guy is higher skill set, way more experience, fights excellent game plans, and Dvorak, though talented, could still get exposed in a few places here and there. And I think Matheus Nicolau might be the guy to pull it off. So again, it's a dog or pass type fight, and for that reason, I'll take that plus money on the dog, Matheus Nicolau.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't even really have anything to add. You kind of laid out all of the situations for me, and I think the only thing I will add is that, you know, round one against Tim Elliott, it's like Tim Elliott's style is so zany and wacky. It's like nobody, you know, you can have someone try to do, you know, a Tim Elliott impression, but you're probably standing there going like, where are these strikes coming from? What is this guy doing? You know, it seems like somebody's like chasing me down like for meth or something like that, like when Tim Elliott's coming after you. So in fairness to him, it's a weird look, and he did adapt in rounds 2 and 3 as we talked about. So I'm with you. Nicolau going on the card for yours truly. Moving on down, we've got Askar Kizriev taking on Denis Chiululin. Minus 380 for the Black Wolf. Denis Chiululin can be had for plus 290. I mean, Kizriev is a smashing machine. Like, it's aggressive. It's very volatile. He's been able to do it, you know, all the way up. He's had a weird run of like canceled fights and yada, yada, yada. The last 4, he's had 4 fights booked. None of them were able to come through. I mean, the Paul Harris fight, I did watch that one in advance, and it's just like, I mean, you watch any of these fights, very, very quick to tape this guy because none of these fights really get outside of a minute. He goes out there, and he absolutely smashes. Chiululin is coming in on short notice. He's a training partner of Sean Strickland right now, one of his main training partners. I mean, watched a couple of his fights. I wasn't all that impressed. If you do have a chance and you track her down, his wife, whoa, Dennis is winning regardless of whether he wins this fight. That's all I'll say. If you're doing your due diligence, you'll see what I mean. But yeah, I mean, he seems relatively durable in some of his fights, but I think it's going to be too much. I think Kizriev goes out there, absolutely smashes early and often. The price is super, super high. The over-under has been like jacked to the under from the early look at least, and I can't really blame it. Askar barely ever gets out of round 1. It could be interesting. Maybe if he gets out of round 1, what does he look like in round 2 when he fights at such a torrential pace? But I'm not picking against the Habib here. What's your take here?
Yeah, I like Kriziev a lot. If it wasn't for the fact that he's off on like nearly a 2-year-long layoff, you know, maybe this guy screams you want him on the top ticket. I think he goes out. Price is right on him. Probably gets the victory. He looked awesome on the regional scene, man. He beat some good guys like Usman Palhares. But if you watch the Yesube Inamoto fight, Yesube Inamoto is a top talent guy. You know, never got the due diligence in North America, but a very, very skilled fighter. And goes a hard 15 minutes with him, back and forth tilt, has his way. I think there's a lot you can like about it. Wins on the Contender Series as a minus 450 favorite. We all know he's getting the contract, gets the contract. Now, this is interesting to me. This 2-year-long layoff, not his fault. So he's booked to fight Wellington Turman pulls out. So they book him against Kyle Daukaus, and the whole of card got canceled due to COVID protocols. So then they book him against Alicio Di Chirico, and yes, he did pull out. But then they book him against Asupian Magomedov, and Magomedov pulls out. And now Dennis Tulin's the one coming in. So it's like, oh, okay, well, he hasn't been hurt. He's just had these fight cancellations. So I find this interview with Dennis Tulin, and they're just like, oh, you signed with the UFC? And he's like, oh, man, it was just great. There's this guy, Kurziev. He goes, nobody wants to fight him. The promotion can't find anybody to fight the guy, and they're desperate for an opponent. So I was like, I'll fight him if you sign me. And they signed me. It's like, oh, shit, you know what? Dude, Tulin's coming off 1 win. It's not like he's on a 3-5 winning streak. 3-fight winning streak. He's 1-1 in his last 2 fights. He's just simply
the only person who's the only person who's willing to say yes.
Exactly. He's training with Sean Strickland. He's got a couple people probably saying, oh, hey, Dennis is in the gym getting ready. It's like, well, what has Dennis done lately? Not much. The guy he lost to, Inkram, he's a beast, and he fights for Eagle FC. Mm-hmm. But all the same, it's like Tulin is limited enough, but he's local to some of the gyms. He trains with some of the fighters on the roster. He's got his hand up saying, in his words, essentially, I'll take this fight. Just sign me a contract. The next guy I'll do better, but I'll take this fight in the meantime. The way he matches up stylistically is not particularly good. And even though it's an MMA fight and this and that, anything on a theoretical level could happen. I think he's outgunned here. He's on short notice and he's mismatched. So I would think that Kurziev goes out there and gets the job done. And again, the price tag is minus 380. At first glance, you say, geez, that's not very good, but it's better than Manon Fiorot's line, right?
Yep.
It's more trustworthy, I would think, than the Askar Askarov line, although that one's still 65 points lighter. Curtis Blaydes, he's a heavyweight. Like, there's a lot more that could go wrong in those fights than this one. But I think we get it out of the way early. It's the second fight on the card, and I think he's a probable winner, and someone will probably have a lot more investment in this week on our tickets.
And on DraftKings proper, like daily fantasy sports, it could be kind of interesting if you want to pay up for him instead of some of the other big favorites here. Because one, he's got these days they've got the first minute finish bonus.
Right.
Because Riev goes out there and he tries to finish you in the first minute every single time. Curtis Blaydes may stay there minus P's and Q's even for a round, or wait until the end of round 1 type of thing. It could be a little bit slow paced while he looks for the perfect time to come in. I'm expecting Kurziev just to go out there and try to kill, because that seems to be what he does in all of his fights. And finally, we got Luis Saldana taking on Bruno Souza. Luis Saldana minus 120 favorite. Souza can be had for plus 100. This is a one that I'm very, very unsure about completely. Bruno Souza is a bit of a karate guy. They were kind of equating him to Lyoto Machida or Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Maybe the big cage helps him out because he likes to fight off of his back foot. That seems to be his way of fighting. And when he took on Melsik in his last time out, it wasn't that bad of a performance. He definitely frustrated Melsik Bagdasaryan because Bagdasaryan wasn't really able to cut off the cage on him and get into the exchanges. It was definitely close. Melsik was the rightful winner, but it was definitely a dicey little fight. Luis Saldana, my biggest concern with him is cardio. The guy comes out in round 1. He gets shot out of a can. He's got some very, very powerful, technical kicks to the body. But if Bruno Souza is circling around to the outside, I just wonder if Saldana is really able to close the distance, land at will in this situation. He's obviously the more potent finisher, but wouldn't be surprised to see Bruno Souza squeeze one out here. So he'll be my pick in this situation. Curious to see where you're at.
Yeah, I'm going to go the other way on this one.
Fair.
Listen, it's a close fight, no doubt about it. Bruno Souza, he's from the Machida Academy. He is a Lyoto Machida black belt, and I think that's what they're trying to correlate. He's the same style as Machida, but I don't quite see it, man. It's not that he's not defeating some decent level of opponents. it's that like Lyoto Machida, because you'll remember this, you're an OG fan. People used to call Machida boring, right? They used to be like, man, this guy stinks up the place. He doesn't engage. He stays to the outside. He just tries to stay out of harm's way. And even the Gunnar Nelson fight, minus the takedowns, that fight would have sucked, man. Gunnar was standing there. They're both standing there. They're both doing the exact same crap. And it was like one strike at a time, run away. It's like, oh my God, this now takedowns. All right, that's a good time. But as far as the striking goes, it's just you're waiting for one shot. You're not going to go and wow people with volume. He's got notable regional show wins over Mike Hamill from Bellator, but it's an illegal disqualification, illegal blow. He beat Kwamala Kirk by a split decision, and Kwamala Kirk hacking it in the UFC, but not great. Elijah Johns, the younger brother of UFC veteran Miles Johns, and again, it's a split decision. So like when he wins, it's not like he's wowing me. Like he looks okay. It looks like again he's one of these karate styles, stay to the outside. His takedown defense is not that bad either. There's some stuff that you can like. It's just not that much I love. Now the Melsick fight, the first round of the Melsick fight, he gets outstruck 21-11. Right, Melsick's just leading the dance, outpointing him 2-1, and he allows it to happen to the tune of getting doubled up in the first round. In the second round, he gets outstruck 31-16. It's the same thing.
That's what's going to happen in like all of his fights, though. He just circles to the outside and he tries to intercept as you dart in. That's basically his game. It's very, very. The big cage could help him.
The big cage could help him because he's got that karate style, no doubt about it. He stay to the outside, make himself long. There's a lot you can dig there. But I would say in the case of Luis Saldana, I'm just trying to check here. Okay, so if you look at Bruno Souza, he's 5'10" with a 70-inch reach, right? He's got this karate style. He's supposed to be elusive. He's supposed to be able to avoid damage. But he gives up 75 significant strikes to Melsick Bagdasaryan, who's basically the exact same height. Saldana's 5'11" with 73-inch reach. He's got a 3-inch longer reach. Comes from a boxing background. He likes to extend that jab. He lands well with his hands. His feet, and he's got excellent kicks as well. Is his cardio a little bit spotty? Maybe. Is his takedown defense spotty? Well, I would say his takedown defense is probably the real issue in his game, but I don't mind him. Like the Austin Lingo fight is back and forth, but Lingo sits down on his punches and has good boxing.
Had a hot
his
start
fight with Jordan Griffin, maybe he should have lost. Yeah, he had an awesome start against Lingo.
It's a trend in most of his fights, except for Vince Murdoch. But like Vince Murdoch was so undersized that, round 3, and it's Dana White's Contender Series. And it's just like, well, if you win a decision over Vince Murdoch, they're probably not giving you a decision. He goes out there, gets the third round finish, the cardio was okay there, but Vince didn't really provide any sort of resistance. I guess in fairness, Souza is just going to be probably dancing around the outside for the most part too. So he's not going to be making it like a real grind fest, which is what Lingo did against Saldana. Like he was in his face.
Lingo just put on mega pressure. Yeah. Mega pressure, that tires you up moving backwards. Lingo starts off well, and Saldana starts off well, falls off. And that's still a close decision. It's still a close decision, but you know what? Lingo pushed forward. My worry here would be, and again, you go back to Souza's last fight, is that I mentioned he gets doubled up in the first 2 rounds. In the third round, he decides to actually throw a little bit. Still gets outstruck in the third round, but lands a fight high 19 significant strikes. He woke up in that round. He allowed his opponent to win the first 2 rounds and dance around. Saldana goes out there. He's going to outpoint him, I believe, for the first 2 rounds. And now he just really needs to survive the third. Is Souza all of a sudden going to become an aggressive karate fighter and start moving forward and try to create openings? Or is he going to lay back and wait for the kill shot that doesn't present itself? I'm leaning towards that's what he's going to do. And so Saldana's a guy that is learning on the job. He always has been because his record started off terrible, right? Loses Justin Lawrence, Damian Childress, and this Anthony Bacam. Mike Santiago knocks him out. That's a bad look. Beats Chris the Mad Dog Nickel. Alex Wiggs Jr. Like he's 10-6. 10-6. He's not that good. The guy makes a lot of fight improvements fight to fight. And here's a greasy theory because I haven't done a greasy theory in a while. Apparently, if you were to lose your sense of sight, the other senses, they become mounted. You can smell better. You can taste better. You can hear better. You just can't see. Saldana's missing like one of his fingers, and that makes his kicks way better, dude. The guy's got great kicks. I really do believe that. Stay on the outside. Use the bigger cage. You know what karate guys don't like? Kicks to the leg. I'm telling you, don't like kicks to the leg. I think Saldana can use that range.
It's hard
use
to
the height,
kick
use
to the
reach.
leg when the person keeps backing up, though.
Yeah, that's true. But you know, look at all the great guys, Raymond Daniels and Michael Venom Page, and the guys that have solved the puzzle. Is just like, I'm just gonna boot your leg out from underneath you so you can't move anymore, right? Saldana's got good punches. I mean, again, he's boxed a little bit. He's rough, rugged out of Des Moines, Iowa, like real tough side of town. I think again, he's the slight favorite. Yeah, he's a slight
minus
favorite. I'd like to
120.
just chalk it up. I'd like to chalk it up to a dog or pass and take the dog, but I think Saldana will win, and he's close to even. So unfortunately, I'll just have to take the even fight here.
I'm not gonna argue all that much with you. So yeah, basically to wrap it up here. Where my money is going this week, I'm gonna end up with money on Matt Brown. Maybe we'll get some dog money on that because it seems like the early action has been coming on Barberena, and I totally disagree. Matt Brown, hometown game for him, and I think he's got more pass. I think he can actually utilize wrestling. Am I counting on him to get the wrestling or to get on with the wrestling? Not necessarily. He may just be there to entertain his hometown fans, but I think they'll be happy either way if he gets the dub. So if I can get some Matt Brown plus money, even better. But minus 110, which is how we said it on the show. Totally fine with that. Chris Gutierrez, plus 135. That has my attention. Nicolau, going to add him to the card. That was a plus 120. Waiting on Fiorot to win by decision. That'll end up on the card. And I'm thinking Magny and Kizriev probably. I see that you can get it close to like close to a pick'em, or sorry, close to like minus 110. Parlaying the two of them together. That's something else I'm going to add because I think as the week goes along, we're going to have Kizriev going off at minus 500, minus 600. As more people watch tape, they're going to realize that this guy's a smashing machine. We're just about out of time, bud. But before we go, hit him with PRP.
Yeah, I'm on soft openers until like the Friday, and I'm going to be gone, so I can't even put much on. But yeah, DraftKings Sportsbook, you can get Kurziev right now at minus 380. My book, you can get him at minus 425. So it's trending
moving,
that way
yep.
for sure. Yeah, for sure. Last week I screwed up. I should have just put Aspinall on my top ticket and then took in the hedge out on Volkov, right? That's what I usually do. If I liked Volkov that much, I'd take the easy hedge. I'm going to do that this week. I'm going to put Blaydes at the top so I can take a hedge out. Oh, I'm going to be on a beach, man.
You're going to be a beach. You're not. You're going to have to give somebody. Maybe call up J-Rock, your bro. Tell him to.
Hey, someone will have to get my boy A-Rap. That's what I'd put in charge.
A-Rap would
but
be in charge.
That could be a slippery slope too. Shout out to my boy A-Rap. Okay, yeah. The official rundown is that we're gonna go Blaydes, Grasso, Askarov, Brown. It's an even money one. Latifi, Fiorot, Magny, Borshchev, Rosa, Gutierrez, dog number 1, Nicolau, dog number 2, Kurziev, and Luis Saldana. So you got 2 even money picks. You've got 2 underdog picks. And then the rest, it looks like it's a lot of consensus favorites. I think if you start at the top and you put Kurziev, Magny, Blaydes, that gives you plus 130. You're going to build off that to add Manon, Fiorot. You're going to add, I think, Ilir Latifi. You know what? Even that right there is a 341. The 2 dogs you like, even if you just go with Nicolau, you get to 848. You know what? There's money to be made on this card. But again, like anything, just focus on what you like the most. And then, yeah, just hopefully you don't get any greasy pie shitters. I'll try to tweet something out before I take off because, you know, I know a lot of people will be asking about it. But at the same time, like, you know, you guys know what's up. You listened to the show, gave you the previews, told you what we liked, watched the weigh-ins. Hopefully that's the last bit of information. But you can't wait till the weigh-ins anymore. You got to lock in some of these picks early because the line is just moving incredibly out of hand. I'm a firm I've always said this. You don't want 3 guys on your top ticket, right? But last week we had to. Not I had to. But because we betted earlier in the week with Nathaniel Wood on tickets. What I got to tweet out is what the line is right when you tweet it out. So now you need 3 guys to get you a minus 160. This is the same thing here. If you went Manon, Fiorot, Kurziev, and Blaydes at the top of your ticket, right? You're still just getting to even money at best. It's officially.
No, you get more than
it's
that.
minus 108. It's not even even money.
Sorry.
And
yeah.
You've
can-
got
you can
a
do
big old
Kiz-
heavyweight, a women's MMA fight, and a Russian who hasn't fought in 2 years. So
Yeah,
there's
I mean
all
that's
these
why
things that
I
could
think
go wrong.
Kizriev and Magny is how I'm gonna go about it. But I don't do the
Because of
full
the
card,
value.
obviously.
Yeah. No, I hears you there, dude.
I hears you.
Yeah, I think it could be a good card. It could be well, but of course you're in Ohio. You don't know what's gonna happen there. You've got a lot of mid-level fights. There's a lot of variances. This is what we do, man. So let's have a better
Ohio
week
is
than
what
last.
scares me about Latifi. Because, like, what if he just gets takedowns? He basically lands next to no significant strikes. The odd time that Oleinik's able to get up, he lands a couple strikes. And, these boxing judges that they bring in and these smaller commissions, could be a bit of a grease fire. Could be a bit of a grease
How do
fire.
you know that it could be? However, one of the fighters is from Russia, and I believe Ohio voted Trump. So maybe they just screw Aleksei Oleinik and give it to the Swedish guy. You just never know. Borshchev shouldn't have that problem because I think he's going to finish Diakiese at some point. Kurziev, I don't think is going to have that problem because he's fighting a Russian guy. But this is the ones. Askarov, Askarov. If there was some type of bias in the world and people were actually pulling that shit, Askarov's in a really close fight most of the time. He's minus 335 favorite. So I don't know. We're talking way too much like greasy theory at this point. The main thing is the fighter with the better skill set usually wins. Not always, but usually wins. And it's fairly easy to identify, I think, who generally the better fighter is here. So hope for the best as always. Hopefully we can hit a few lines of tickets. And I was going to say, if you got any questions, hit me up. But I'm going to be gone for a week. I think I deserve that much. I'm going to enjoy myself, recharge the batteries, kick some ass when I come back.
Leave Cody alone. And I don't want too many people. If you say this week and you're like, hey, where is the PRP? Blah, blah, blah. If Cody hasn't posted it, I know you don't watch the show. So that is that's a disclaimer for you. So I probably won't even tell you what's going on and why things aren't out or whatever happens. Either way, Cody, enjoy your vacation. Let's get back on track. Let's win a few bucks here this week because next week is a week off, and then we're back for UFC 273, which is probably the card of the year, at least up until this point this year. So that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For producer Pat Mayo and Cody Saftic, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.
Oh.